So I studied film at university, not filmmaking, but film studies. So basically just watching films for 3 years
Nice.
and writing about them, talking about them. And yeah, it sounds cool. You know, when I say that to people, they're like, "Oh, you studied film." Like, I mean, like nerdy people. You know, it gives me like social capital with nerds to say that I studied film.
Right. Makes you hotter.
Yeah,
To
but
nerds.
like all things that seem cool, it was actually pretty depressing. And, you know, I mean, I only went to university because it's just what you did, you know, just to like avoid having to do my parents' life.
Fair enough.
So the thing that I struggle with academia generally is that, and I know a lot of people, you know, maybe some of our listeners are students studying and, you know, fit into that world really well and get a lot from it. But for me, my experience has always been that academia tends to suck all of the passion out of subjects. And it was no different with film because it, the lecturers, you know, were just quite, they would sort of chastise you for raving about films, or you know, like talking about film in a chastise.
Chastise, what's that mean?
Tell you off.
Oh, okay. It's a good word. Can you hear there's an animal on the roof? Hello?
Oh, it wants to be on the podcast.
Yeah, come on, be a guest. Sorry, carry on. Jade's just talking now, but you can come in a bit.
Yeah, so it was always like, oh, this is film studies, it's not film appreciation. Like you weren't allowed to sort of appreciate films or talk about films in like how you felt about the film.
Great. It just teaches misery. That's really
It's just like
fantastic.
your feelings are not valid here. We're talking about films in this dry academic way that like sucks all of the joy out of them. And that's not really what I signed up for. I thought, like many of my fellow students probably, that, you know, I love film and I want to watch films for 3 years and talk about films with fellow film lovers. And, you know, films had meant a lot to me. They'd really been there for me and had helped me explore a lot of my own feelings in a way that I just wouldn't have been able to do without those stories and characters. But you weren't really allowed to talk about it in that way. It was, like I said, this sort of dry, we're talking about the mise en scène and we're talking about,
What's the mise en scène?
The scenery. And we're talking about, you know...
Why don't you just call it the scenery then? It's French.
Because it has to be as pretentious as possible.
Okay.
Because it's academia. Right. So you have to make it so that
I hate
the average person can't understand
yeah,
what you're saying.
Why can't you just make it really super simple? I think isn't it like easier to make it stupidly complicated? Like I find explaining simple things more difficult when you can put something into like words that a child could understand. I think that's a sign that you can really understand it. And it's like if it's really complicated, then why? But yeah, sorry, it interrupts my personal opinion.
And obviously learning the history is important. But when I come to a film, I'm not coming at it from that angle. It's just not how I watch films in the context of, oh, where was Jean-Luc Godard at in his life when he made this? And what was he saying with this shot? And what is the meaning of this angle? So I hated all of that.
Fair enough.
Generally. But I did have a few formative experiences. And one thing that I did actually really enjoy about the course was watching films in the morning. Getting up at 8 a.m. or whatever and then going and watching a film in a lecture hall or a theatre at 9 o'clock in the
Yeah,
morning.
that's a great time for a movie.
I love that. I think
Yeah.
like the morning is just such a good time
Yeah,
to watch film,
I
and I
agree.
still sometimes go to the cinema in the morning because it, if I can find a rare screening at that time.
Neurodivergent hours.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
the same. Yeah, it's just how I live my life is, avoiding other people.
as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you go to the cinema at 11 a.m., there's usually just like one other guy in there. So,
Fellow autistic man.
yeah. So, anyway, this one day, I think in my first year probably, we were studying classic Hollywood, the classical Hollywood golden era, which is like the 50s post war film. And we were watching Singing in the Rain.
Great movie.
Yeah. So this is in my first year. I'm quite depressed, and I really didn't fit in to the university lifestyle. I felt really uncomfortable with the living situation that I was in. Living in halls, it just did not align with
Sounds rough. Yeah.
my comfort levels in any way. So I felt just really uncomfortable, really unsafe. I was highly anxious. It was noisy. I didn't really like the people that I'd been put with. And like I said, the course was not really shaping up to what I had hoped it would be. And university is a scam. Let's just admit it.
The curriculum is a problem. Like the curriculum and fucking dry grey toast that's mouldy and
Yeah.
beardy conversations and dust and.
I was at a
cobwebs.
pretty shit university as well. Maybe like other universities are a better experience.
Yeah, and
Maybe the staff
yeah.
are a bit more like alive. The university I went to is like one of the lowest on the league tables of universities in the UK.
Well, I went to one of the highest in the world, and I found that really, really, really hard.
Okay, so it's shit at either end then.
Oh, it's not necessarily shit, but like it's problematic. I think the curriculum is just a massive problem. I don't really think that we need to have like exams. Like exams have never the exams I did in university, which were really challenging, have not helped or informed my professional life in any way. Like zero way. So it's like
What did you study?
music production, sound recording, and music business. So yeah, I had really technical exams that just melted my brain. Like it was just relentlessly difficult for me, being dyslexic and autistic and OCD, and it's just pointless. Like, and my degree, having like a qualification of a degree's never got me anywhere either. Like, I've always just like talked my way into jobs, really. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I digress. I'm quite often moan about that. But I was like a small fish in a big pond. Yeah, a really big pond, and it was so intimidating.
I'm sure that's what it's like for a lot of people at, the higher end universities.
Yeah, and everyone's like super in competition with each other and like just insecure, basically. Everyone is like super insecure in the music business, generally.
I mean, maybe it's different now. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends what you study.
Maybe there's more of a support for mental health. But at the time I was there, it just wasn't. There wasn't anything. Really.
I'm getting like going to the dentist now, like a dental school, like emergency dentist, and they've been amazing for me actually. Like just sorted out my mouth, and they are students and they get to work with clients. So like that's an example of university being that's great training in my opinion. They still have to do exams though. That's fucking bullshit.
So yeah, in the more kind of practical.
Yeah.
sense.
Working with you're doing the job supervised. That's good, I think.
I guess film studies is a bit of a bullshit degree, so it's
It doesn't have to be. It could be amazing. Like if you had a good teacher.
Yeah, that's a good point. And one of my teachers was really good, but the others were just sort of so shut down.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine they had a huge amount of pressure on them. And yeah, I know how tough it is for people working in higher education then and now. It's horrible. So I can understand why you would be shut down. And I think because the university I went to was, like I said, low on the league tables. It was sort of like an extension of school where like a lot of the students didn't really want to be there. They were just there. A lot of them would just like miss lectures, and it was just a low sort of standard generally. You said that everyone was in competition with each other. With at my university, it was like the opposite. It was just like no one gave a shit.
Oh, that's a shame because, well, why would they? Why should they? Quentin Tarantino said he made a movie that never came out. He just used the film for guitar picks, but he said that making a movie was the best film school that you could have. They should have done that, right? Just given you equipment.
Well, this wasn't filmmaking; those film studies.
Yeah, but I mean, studying film, you like make film to study film. You know what I mean? Because then you get like a whole perspective of like how the director is using the camera, how the director is, instead of just like sitting there and like writing an essay on it, it's just like you could imitate it. Maybe. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, or maybe it could have been like more in a practical sense of, I don't know, shaping how we wrote about the films or talked about the films. Maybe like making a podcast about film to talk about film
that's a good
would
idea.
be a good practical exercise. But anyway, a lot of it was just, watching films and then going to these awkward seminars where everyone was too insecure to talk about anything. And like I said, we weren't really allowed to appreciate the films. We had to just talk about them in a dry way. So I think it takes a while to adjust your self-expression to be academic, to fit that like academic language.
Yeah, not for you.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me at all. But anyway, so studying classical Hollywood, and so this one morning the lecture was Singin' in the Rain, and this was my first year. So like I said, I was depressed. I didn't make any friends till like my second year, so I was just a complete loner for that whole first year. And I had my car with me, so I would like drive home every weekend because I just hated being on the campus. I hated where I was living. In my second year, things got a bit better. I made some friends on my course, and I got a job in a student pub, and that helped with the socializing side of it. But yeah, that first year, was really, really rough. And this is like a depressed person morning. I would get up before my lecture and I would go to the newsagents and I would buy a massive can of Red Bull and a bar of like Milky Way chocolate. That was my breakfast. Nice. For these early lectures. And so I went there, sat in my little loner back row seat to watch Singin' in the Rain. And Singin' in the Rain, it's quite an interesting movie. I think if you haven't seen it, it's well worth a watch. I think it's
charged.
It's charged. It's got this manic energy to it, and I don't know if it was made during the war, was it? Or
yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So it's got that vibe about it, like the world is falling apart. So let's make this really intense, energetic,
happy,
crazy movie.
Yeah, it's like super happy, but like a bit like suspiciously happy. Like, oof. Calm down. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Manic.
It's good. Yeah,
it's
really,
manic.
It's really manic.
It's a bit like the pandemic and how a lot of art came out of that I think has a similar charge to it. Maybe not the same manic energy, but
interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting to to think about films in that way of like emotionally, what are they responding to that's going on in the world.
Same with music.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of like really intensely happy music comes out of like really dark times.
Exactly, yeah.
And the craziest part of Singing in the Rain is this bit in kind of in the middle. So it's a musical, and all of the other songs kind of fit in with the plot, but there's this one bit in the middle called Broadway Melody that has nothing to do with the plot, and it's just Gene Kelly comes into a room and is like, oh, I had this idea for this piece called Broadway Melody, and they just go into this completely insane piece of music and choreography that feels like it lasts a really long time. Like it goes on for a while.
Yeah, it's really hypnotic, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like its own little self-contained story about Gene Kelly, who's this guy who's singing and dancing on a stage, and then he goes to Hollywood, I think, to try and make it. And it's this very stylized, lots of neon lights and those big, wide shots of like hundreds of dancers, in this big, crazy.
With a monkey suit. That was a bit. That always disturbs me. Like when they're singing about the clothes, and then there's like a coat made of monkeys.
Oh yeah, that is. I forgot about that whole bit. Is that in Broadway Melody?
I think so.
Yeah, there's this bit where there's just this weird fashion show. No, I think that's a different song.
Okay.
Beautiful girls. Is it that one?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so trippy. It's just good. Yeah, it's just trippy. Like taking.
I think that's a different song.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
Anyway. So in this little self-contained story, Gene Kelly goes to Hollywood, and then at some point he gets involved with the mob. It's a weird little storyline. That's obviously they just wrote this song and are trying to build something around it to make it make sense in the middle of this film. And so the introduction of Sid Charisse, who is an actress, dancer from that time, well known for her dancing. I think she was a ballet dancer, and she's danced with all of the big Hollywood male dancers at this time. So like Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly and a whole load of others. And her introduction is really, really powerful. You kind of are just introduced to her legs. She has these insanely long, toned legs. And I think the introduction is Gene Kelly drops his hat and she picks it up with her foot, and you just see her long leg come into the shot.
That was the sexualized organ for women.
The sexualized organ.
Yeah, the legs. Because in organ legs, everyone was getting all hot over the organ legs at the time. Because in what's that Gene Wilder movie where they shot a whole sequence of the film just to show the legs of what is it? Where he goes, there's a flashback where he goes, he's in the war.
Oh, I think it's Witness for the Prosecution.
Witness for the Prosecution, yeah, that's it. And what's the
It's Billy Wilder.
Name with the legs?
Marlena Dietrich.
Thank you. Yeah. Because they do a leg organ shot for that as well, don't they? Everyone was getting hot on legs back in the 40s. Yeah. No, that is a supremely sexy shot of that. Yeah. The camera rolling up and
imagine me this really,
she was really bossing it
really
as well,
depressed 19-year-old with my Red Bull and Milky Bar chocolate, also painfully repressed sexuality because I grew up in a place that was very homophobic and an era that was very homophobic, and I think it's easy to forget how homophobic it was.
Probably still is. We're talking about Coventry, right?
We're talking about Coventry, yeah. But also, I think the early 2000s, it's not even that long ago, but we have come so far in terms of queer representation.
Yeah, but we live in Bristol, so
Yeah, but like go to the cinema now. There's like a whole bunch of
Okay.
queer characters in
And
the
there's
films.
also Danny Dyer's new film. so yeah, it's like one step forward, two steps back. Well, what was the? Wasn't a really good one-line bit of that you read to me from the Danny Dyer film that someone had written on the reviews. What was that like?
There were a lot of good. We're talking about this film called Marching Powder. That is the new Danny Dyer film. And if you go to the Letterboxd page, it's just some of the funniest reviews I've ever read on any film on that site. I had a real good laugh the other day just
Sort
reading
of the
people
opposite of what we're talking about.
tearing this film to shreds,
Yeah.
rightfully so, because it's
Yeah.
full of like transphobia and
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, to set the context, you know, I grew up in Coventry, which was you just wouldn't be out queer in Coventry.
And if you were, then you'd have to deal with like violence and
yeah, you'd be
hate.
like signing your
lot.
death sentence, basically.
I mean, there were people who were, I think, in Coventry. I remember.
I didn't know anyone
You
who
didn't know
was
anyone?
out.
No one.
You know,
Okay.
I had a few friends at school that, looking back
Right.
on it now, it's pretty obvious that they were gay, but you just wouldn't be
Yeah,
out.
It was scary.
It would not be
Super
safe.
scary. Same in rugby.
In my school,
Yeah.
to be out at that time, you know, you just wouldn't. And you know, this is an era when, you know, homophobic slurs was still pretty common in like TV shows
In school and that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like gay was a word that meant, you know, something really negative.
Yeah.
It was in like an insult that you would call people. And
Yeah. Oh, it's so
just a really
toxic.
horrible time. And I think, have you heard of comp het? It's like compulsory heterosexuality.
No.
And it's a kind of conditioning that is a product of the patriarchy, I guess, where it's seen as heterosexuality is just seen as like the default. It's compulsory, and it serves to just suppress queerness.
That sounds fucking nightmarish.
That's basically what
It's a bit
Coventry-
like ASD. I just got a diagnosis for ASD, autism spectrum disorder. He says, like neurotypical people. I don't know.
Yeah,
Do you know
I
what
guess
mean?
it's a similar thing,
Like,
like
it has-
compulsory neurotypical.
Yeah,
So yeah, there was that going on for me as well.
yeah.
So it was all different parts of myself were being suppressed because of this unsafe environment that I had grown up in. And I guess that day, like seeing Sid Charisse in that film and watching her dance with Gene Kelly and just completely like trample Gene Kelly. Gene Kelly at the time, like one of the most famous actors and dancers, danced with, you know, all of the Hollywood leading ladies of the time. Very powerful man. And you know, he directed this film. This was like his baby, this film. But in that sequence, Broadway Melody, she just like completely just tramples him,
Yeah.
and he's like loving it.
Yeah. He's just a wanting slave to her
To her
female
power.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was the first time that I'd ever seen that represented in that way. So, first of all, it awakened something in me that was like, you know, a sexual attraction to her and what she represented that I'd never really felt for a woman before. As I said, I didn't have any queer role models in my youth. And queer characters on TV were just not as common as they are now, and there were just very few representations that I really could understand or, you know, feel a connection to. And I'd seen powerful women in TV shows that I watched. You know, Buffy was one of my favourite shows, and Gilmore Girls was another of my favourite shows. And
They
there's,
struggle
you know, a lot
with
of-
the representation, though, don't they? I mean, I know that obviously Buffy, there was a gay couple, but it was sort of struggling at first. They didn't show them kiss, and then Tara gets shot.
Yeah, a lot
So
of failures in that. But I'm talking about like powerful women.
okay, yeah, not
I had
necessarily
seen, I
bisexual. Yeah,
looked
okay.
up to powerful women
Yeah,
in those shows.
yeah, cool.
But something about Sid Charisse in that, the way that she holds herself, and also the fact that she was tall. She was taller than Gene Kelly. And honestly, that was the first time I'd ever seen that on a screen, because everything I'd ever watched before that, was this idea that the man always has to be taller than the woman, and that there's something, I don't know, like intimidating or wrong about a woman being
Yeah,
taller than a man.
that's the conditioning as well, isn't it? Like that we all get weirdly. Like I don't understand that either. Like there's this sort of things that go around circles of people like sayings like, "Oh, you can't go out with her because she's taller than you." Like what? It's like why? What the
So
fuck are you
fucked
talking
up.
about?
Because I am tall. I am a tall woman, and I was tall from about the age of 13. And I had been made to feel so shameful about that. Because everyone in my family just went on about it constantly, and I just always felt, all of my friends were shorter than me. Every boy I liked at that younger age was shorter than me. And so I felt so ashamed of my height. I was just constantly slouching and trying to make myself smaller. My posture was just completely terrible. I had like back problems because of it. So, yeah, at age 19, seeing a woman being taller than a man and that being celebrated in that way, where she's just, I mean, she is the center of that movie for me, and she's only on screen for like quite a short part of it. She's not like she's not a character really. She's just a sort of symbol. She's just
Yeah,
this.
an archetype.
Yeah, it's just her image that is so incredibly powerful. And Gene Kelly's reaction to her, I think, also there's something validating in that. So yeah, that moment, seeing her in that movie, really opened up a lot of doors for me inside. And I had other experiences with that where I guess it took me a while to feel safe to explore my attraction to women in my real life. But I had other, experiences through film of seeing queerness and seeing female sexuality being celebrated. And so, yeah, it was really been a journey that I've been on through film. And I'm just so grateful to those representations that have helped me to find that in myself. And it's so important to just have diverse representations. And I know this is talked about more now. But yeah,
We've still got a long way to go.
an extremely long way to go.
Like we're only beginning to start to have a hold over these concepts in a responsible way, because most of the time writing is lazy and you just constantly have to be going back in time to cliches and not thinking in terms of responsible writing. That's partly it. And then you've got a system of Hollywood that will only get certain things made that are very male or very female, like Oppenheimer or Barbie. We're still sort of on a rocky train ride through rough terrain, unfortunately.
That's
even
true.
now.
And I think also we're still only just crawling out of that trope that you mentioned with Tara being shot. You kill your gays.
Exactly.
Where like gay people always have to die or
what the
be
hell?
in tragic
what was
situations.
Guillermo was in something we watched, Companion. God, that was terrible. And he gets killed, doesn't he? And he's like the gay guy comedy
Side character.
And that's just like how like black people were treated in movies and like 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, even now today, like the side character comedy relief, it's just so racist. And like, Guillermo was homophobic, and like that was made like this year. That travesty, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wish I could remember his actual name. It's Harvey something.
Oh yeah,
Harvey.
sorry. Yeah, I do
We
apologize.
just call him Guillermo because
Yeah,
that's his name in What We Do in the
yeah,
Shadows.
yeah.
But yeah, that actor.
And What We Do in the Shadows has really rough representation. We had to stop watching it because the ageism was like horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe that's another topic. But
Well,
I do
ageism is a whole other thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
know we talked about the substance
We
recently,
did. Yeah.
which again is just such a negative representation
Uh-huh.
of aging. And I just wish there was more celebration of the aging process.
Yeah.
And maybe that's coming. I don't know. Maybe not.
We need to celebrate all these things, all facets of persons, and people inside of us.
So yeah, keep smashing those tropes.
Yeah, keep being you, express you, innit? Like in everything you do. Don't allow anyone to bully you into any kind of submission of expression. Just be your true self as much as you can, because that's a big deal, a massive deal. I mean, even just clothes, like you know, express yourself through clothes, and like it's ridiculous the how powerful that is. Like I constantly have experiences with that. But yeah, just express yourself in all ways, please.
We'd really love it if you could help us to grow the podcast and grow the community. So if there's anyone you have in your life who you think might enjoy Pivotal Slice, please do recommend. It goes a long way.
It does, and you can subscribe to our Patreon for as little as £3. You can also pay a bit more and get exclusive episodes and juicy content.
Or if you fancy buying us a coffee, that would help us a lot to keep growing and give us a little energy boost.
You can write a review on Apple Podcasts, Audible. You can rate us on Spotify, and you can engage us on YouTube by liking, commenting, and subscribing. This will go a long way in moving through the algorithm universe.